Carnales de Telehit, nos encontramos en un momento de lujo, uno de los guitarristas más importantes en la historia del rock and roll. Tenemos la oportunidad de platicar con él. Es un honor platicar con Joe Satriani. First of all, thank you very much. It's an honor to talk with you.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
Cool. How do you feel here in Mexico?
Well, it feels like home, really. I mean, we started this tour in Australia, and we sort of worked our way across, and then up from Chile, and we've been sort of just making our way up South America. So, yeah, when we got here this afternoon, it really felt like home.
Cool. Now, talking about the last album, Professor Sachafonkilis and the Mysterious of Rock, right? It's a hard title.
It is. Yeah, I apologize for that, but yeah, it doesn't really mean anything, but it has a musical ring to it, you know.
And what could it be the story behind the creating process of this album?
Well, part of it was the way I usually do things. I write a lot of material, so I started out with about 40 songs, and I try to edit it down to about 20, and I'll run 20 by the guys. They usually will say no to a few, and then they, you know, click off the ones they like, and then I try to bring 16 into the studio with the guys, and this time I had this idea that if I didn't go in with an album title, that it wouldn't affect their creative element very much. So everyone would look at each song as a separate creative approach, and I thought that'd be interesting. The only problem was when we finished the record, I didn't have a title, and I was sort of searching, what am I going to do? I can't really pick one of the songs out to make it the flagship song, you know. So we were having dinner, a bunch of friends and my manager, myself, in a cave, I believe it or not, in a wine cave, and one night, and he had suggested to me that maybe a long title, you know, that doesn't mean much might be the trick, you know, because we know that it doesn't matter what the title is really of the album, you know. So I started thinking about it as we were drinking this wonderful wine, and I came up with Professor Satriani and the Mysterious of Rock just by, you know, mashing up the song titles, and it almost sounded like it had a meaning to it, so I thought I'll keep it.
Cool. Now, you also, last year, you re-released the Surfing with the Alien album, that is the 20th anniversary. What is the perception of that album after 20 years? It changed?
Well, I guess there's two things. The one thing is, you know, from the inside looking out, the record has maintained its vibe, you know, which is what you always hope for. You want to make a timeless recording. And so the record still seems to deliver this sort of fresh attitude of instrumental guitar playing. And it's a real quirky record. I mean, when you really look at it, the 10 songs are very different from each other. It doesn't really stick to one style. But it is a celebration. And I think that's what ignited the interest of the fans around the world and got it to sell so many millions of copies. And sort of, it's just stayed fresh somehow. And then from the outside looking in, you know, we play most of that record on tour every night. And so it's remained very current to me, I guess, especially to my fingers, you know, because I almost feel like I'm still working on it when we perform live. Every show is an opportunity to figure out a better way of doing something, or just getting more comfortable with some fingering or something like that.
Cool. Now, you also are one of the best guitar teachers in the world. What could it be the hardest thing of teach how to play a guitar?
Well, I guess there's two sides to that. There's, you know, some things for the teacher are difficult, which would be two things. Finding out exactly what the student wants and what the student is really capable of. Because you don't want to work on the negatives of someone, you want to try to find the positive qualities of their musicianship, and you want to work on them so that they're optimized, you know what I mean? So, like, you might find someone who can hear really great, hears harmony and melody, fantastic. Maybe their fingers are kind of slow, but that's okay. So you work on the other side, and you find another student who has great facility with their fingers, but they don't really hear as well as the other student, you know. So you have to work around that. The other thing I think is the student, you know, it's hard to take lessons. I think a teacher has to understand that guitar can feel awkward in a student's hand. A teacher has to remember that to try to help the student get comfortable with the guitar, and to I think the students got to figure out how are they going to get good. In other words, how much should they practice? You know, you don't want them spinning their wheels practicing too much. So, yeah, it takes two, you know, to tango when it comes to taking lessons. So.
Now, talking about the G3, that probably 7 years ago, I saw you with Steve Vai, with John Petrucci, and you're like the teacher for them. But if you could choose, hypothetically talking, two other guitar players of all time to be with you at the G3, I mean, it don't even care if they're alive or not. Who would choose?
Jimi Hendrix, I think. Maybe Charlie Christian, you know. I mean, that would be pretty amazing, you know. Charlie Christian was one of the first guys to really play head-to-head, toe-to-toe. I don't know, those are funny American phrases, but in other words, he could really step up and improvise just as much as the